Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
Genies, what a time to start researching your family. Welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio and extremegenes.com, America's family history show, where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, and I am so glad you found us. For me, it was a great week finding obituaries with stories of people I've been looking for a long time. Digitized newspapers are changing everything. We even have websites that search for matches for you from your entire tree while you sleep and then notify you. Thank you, MyHeritage. Our guests this week include David Allen Lambert, senior genealogist for the New England Historic Genealogical Society, talking about the conflict you might call the Forgotten War. In fact, if you fought in this war, there came a time when you were eligible for a pension with just a few weeks' service. Which war was this and what records are available on it? David will fill us in about 8 minutes. Then later in the show, Andrea Cranny of the General Society of Mayflower Descendants will be here to talk about the very first Thanksgiving. Just what did those pilgrims and natives eat anyway? Well, I'm not sure you really want to know, but we're going to find out anyway. Maybe you can catch your kids' attention by providing them some of this food for Thanksgiving. I guarantee they would never forget it. Then Tom Perry, our preservation authority, joins us to talk about how quantum physics are going to protect our data. This is really weird stuff, so all I ask is that you hear him out. Our extremegenes.com poll for this week asked the question, what is the earliest age that one of your direct ancestors died? Teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s? I was amazed to see several votes for direct ancestors dying in their teens. Several more said 20s, with fewer and fewer as the ages went up. Interesting to think of teens dying after fathering or giving birth to a child and having who knows how many living descendants today. Our extremegenes.com poll for this week asks, when you celebrate Thanksgiving, what do you think of most? The pilgrims, the blessings, the food, the family gatherings, the football, or the shopping? And let's be honest here. Now, here is my free gift to you, and I hear from more people who, when they find our free Extreme Genes podcast app, can't believe they've gone this long without it. Yes, it is free. Just download it from your Android or iPhone store, and you can catch up with every single episode. There's a lot of how-to information and inspiring stories, too, so why not download it while we speak? We will make a genie out of you yet. We'll just wait here. Done. There you go. All right, we are packed with this week's Family Histoire news from the pages of extremegenes.com. If you watched the World Series between San Francisco and Kansas City, you may remember watching Royals pitcher Jeremy Guthrie. Guthrie is part Japanese and recently was among a group of Major League All-Stars who toured Japan playing against Japanese players. It was his first trip to his ancestral homeland, so Jeremy decided he wanted to try to connect with cousins he believed were still there. He had some leads as some 40 years ago, a relative named Akio Tashikiyo wrote to his family. Jeremy's mother took 10 years to respond and then didn't get a reply. And so it has stood for 3 decades. Before the trip, Jeremy asked a friend to try to track down these potential relatives. In time, the friend discovered Jeremy's third cousin once removed, a member of the family that had tried to reach out to his family in the 1970s. During an off day of the barnstorming tour, Guthrie traveled to Mihara, where he met Akio and his sister. Jeremy was still skeptical that they were related until Akio showed him a full family tree. And when Jeremy spotted the name of his great-grandfather, he knew he had found family. A few days later, Akio, his sister, and cousin traveled to the Tokyo Dome, where their cousin, Jeremy Guthrie, started for the Major League All-Stars against the team of Samurai Japan. Jeremy's team lost in a combined no-hitter by the Japanese team, but Jeremy took great solace in knowing his family had been reunited for the first time since the 1930s. Toshikio's comment? It was incredible for us. Check out more on the story at extremegenes.com. Well, here's one that'll be a little tricky for some people about 20 years from now. Heather Pentikoff of Fort Myers, Florida, gave birth to a little girl, Madeline, last week. Minutes later, little Madeline's sister, Destiny Martin, gave birth in the same hospital to a little boy, Damien. Mother and daughter, or mother and aunt, or daughter and son, nephew or grandson, well, they're all doing just fine. And by the way, Heather and Destiny, mother and daughter, both found out they were pregnant on the same day. Unbelievable. NationalGeographic.com has a great story about the children of Civil War soldiers that still live among us. It's true. There are fewer than 35 of these children now living. Of course, they're really old children, but nonetheless. Fred Upham is 93. His father, like the fathers of all the rest of this unique club, had him very late in life. William Upham fought with the 2nd Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry Regiment for the Union and was badly wounded at the First Battle of Bull Run. Later, William met President Lincoln in the White House and was appointed by him to the Military Academy at West Point. There are 11 living daughters of Confederate soldiers. Iris Lee Gay Jordan was only 9 when her father, Lewis Gay, died in 1931. According to the article, she still gets teary-eyed when thinking of her dad. She remembers him telling stories sitting on the front porch on Sundays. Lewis Gay fought for Florida's 4th Volunteer Infantry and fought throughout the South. Very few from his unit survived the war. Fred and Iris have something else in common. Both of their fathers were taken captive by the other side early in the war and were released. It's a great story with some terrific photos. Find the link at extremegenes.com. And coming up next, did you know there was an American war where veterans could receive a pension for just a couple of weeks of service? David Allen Lambert of the New England Historic Genealogical Society is back to tell us about what war that is and what records were created around that war that may contain the names of your ancestors. That's in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Genies, not long ago, something happened with one particular online research service that changed everything. It happened with a service that already has 75 million members worldwide, and it's not who you think it is. Hi, it's Fisher, and you know I'm always looking for new and better ways for you to discover your ancestors, not just the data, but the stories. The online service I'm talking about takes your family tree and then uses its powerful automated technology to match the people in your tree to over 5 billion records from around the world. Censuses, newspaper stories, vital records with 97% accuracy. This means no more wading through thousands of useless so-called hints. This also means the site itself is constantly looking for matches for you, even while you're sleeping. What site does all this? It's myheritage.com. You can try myheritage.com for free. Here's a special gift from me. Use discount code EXTREMEGENES after signing up and get an exclusive 20% discount at myheritage.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at storyworth.com/extremegenes. That's storyworth.com/extremegenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at storyworth.com/extremegenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
Remember how fun it was to capture those special moments of your children's childhood on video and watch it back, knowing that you'd be able to have that memory forever? Or watching a home movie of your own childhood and seeing many of your loved ones who are now gone. If you haven't yet digitized those family treasures, you're at risk of losing all of them with each passing day. Time and elements slowly destroy videos and film, as well as rare old photos and audio recordings. Rescuing your memories is what TMCplace.com has been doing for over 40 years. They can transfer all these discs and hard drives so you and your family can enjoy them digitally for generations to come, and without damaging the originals. They provide free shipping both ways on most orders. They even offer GPS real-time tracking of your package so you can be confident that nothing can ever be lost in transit. Call toll-free 1-866-483-1717 to talk to Extreme Genes Preservation Authority Tom Perry about your special project, or order online at shop.tmcplace.com. And welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, extremegenes.com, America's Family History Show. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, and back with us once again from the New England Historic Genealogical Society, my good friend David Allen Lambert, the senior researcher there, or a senior researcher. I know there are others who are very senior too, David, right?
Well, I try to be as senior as possible without having to be retired yet.
Right. Absolutely. And David is an expert in all things military, and that, I think, affects a lot of the stories that we collect on our ancestors. I've been watching a lot of war movies lately, David, with my wife, and she gets to watch a chick flick, and then I get to watch a war movie. And so I've been watching George C. Scott do his thing as General Patton. They didn't have a General Patton in the War of 1812 now, did they?
No, but I'm sure there were definitely people of that caliber. There were, George Patton predecessors, if you will, not wannabes. But
that could very well be.
Absolutely.
Because America's always loved a winner and will not tolerate a loser.
Yeah, well, the War of 1812 kind of tosses that one up as a possibility. Did we win?
Or did we lose?
Or did we lose?
Well, that's a really good point, because if you look around at the different histories written by the different participants, the Canadians, they feel they've won. The Brits feel like, well, they just didn't have much time for it because they had other wars to fight. And we feel like it was a consuming victory and a reiteration of the Revolution, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say a lot of the young soldiers who cut their teeth in the Revolutionary War were older officers by the time of the War of 1812. Heavens, even Andrew Jackson was a Revolutionary War soldier as a young man, and then, obviously to his victory during the War of 1812.
Yeah, that's right, which actually happened in 1815, I think it was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the one thing. The war that has one single year actually went on from 1812 to 1815. So we're still in the bicentennial celebration, if you will, of that war.
That's right. That's right. Well, we wanted to talk a little about records on that, because I think a lot of us tend to skip over it. We look at the Revolution. We look at the Civil War. We look at World Wars I and II. I think the Spanish-American War gets missed out a little bit. The Mexican War gets missed out a little bit. But the War of 1812 actually does have some meat on its bones as far as records that we can find concerning our ancestors.
And the way I look at any war, and when I look at a lot of people's charts, I look for men that are born approximately between about 1785 and 1795, because they're their prime cannon fodder, if you will, to be in the ranks. And you'd be surprised. You would think that there'd be more participation. And New England has a fair amount, but it really gets into the New York area where you get the stronger contingents of soldiers that are enlisting.
And why do you think that would be?
The battlefronts were closer, and I think there was more of a threat. Now, for New England, you do have people that served 6 days and guarded the fort at Wiscasset, Maine, because there was an impending invasion by British naval forces. We were always waiting for the other shoe to drop, at least in the New England range, that they were going to go in and burn this city or burn that city. I mean, obviously, Washington got sacked horribly, affecting Revolutionary War records because the War Department had its second fire. Besides the White House being burned, the War Department was burned, and hence a lot of the old pension files and bounty land records we have no record of because of these fires.
So they weren't all together, though, because some of those have survived.
They have, and mostly the pension files for most soldiers don't take it into an act until 1818. So the earlier ones were often arranged by Congress, or they were bounty. So a lot of the early bounty land are assigned by the federal government. You'll see a number of it referenced, but it'll say no papers because the papers were burned. There was actually 2 fires. The War Department also burnt in 1800. That was obviously no cause to the British, but to add insult to injury, the other fire took out whatever was pre-1814. But there are muster rolls because those are still on the state level. War Department records seem to burn all the time. 1973, St. Louis, Missouri, the big fire there took out all the Army records for the most part, World War I right on through to Vietnam.
Wow, what a loss that was. Well, and you think about that. I mean, fire is something that is universal to all ages and places, and we tend to think of it as a disaster when an entire repository is gone. But we don't generally think that our own records could be lost if something, a kitchen fire took place in our own home.
Absolutely.
And that's why preservation and duplication of locations is so important, and we're always talking about it on the show.
Absolutely. I mean, I will always say share your records, scan your records, put them up online. I don't care if you put them on social media or you take them and put them on a flash drive and put it in your safety deposit box. Put it in the dash of your car. Something you don't want to have to recreate all your years of hard work and documents for one sad fire,
Yeah, wouldn't that be awful? All right, what else is available from the War of 1812?
Well, one of the things that is really a wonderful effort is FGS, the Federation of Genealogical Societies, has put together an effort to digitize with Fold 3, and they're raising money to put the War of 1812 pension files online. So their efforts have been fabulous. They're already appearing online on Fold 3. War of 1812 is kind of a funny time frame, though, because you don't get pension files for most soldiers until the Act of 1871. So here's a fellow born in 1785, 1795. He's very, very old, or his widow applies by the time there's actually money available.
Now, I had one in my line, and the widow got it, I want to say, in the 1850s. Does that sound right? I'm just doing it from memory.
Probably got land by then.
Yes, land. Yep. And so that record exists, although I've never found anything further about it, about what land, or did she turn around and sell it, or how that worked.
Well, what's funny about that, Fisher? The people would get these land grants, and if you look in the newspapers of the time, there are ads kind of like, cash for gold now you see all the time. Cash for bounty land. They would put you money on the barrel if you wanted to sell that land, and then they would take that and they would resell the property. So your ancestor or his family may have never, ever even seen that land, let alone even saw where it looked like on a map.
I totally believe that was the case, yes. Mm-hmm. I just don't know that they would have made that much on it, but I would imagine people who are looking to put some of these pieces of land together in ideal locations would eventually profit from it.
Absolutely, because, I'm sure the pensions were handed off almost on a calendar basis as blocks of land, as the land was divided back then, that if you got enough of the parcels together, you could just start your own town.
Yeah, pretty much. That's true. So what records exist? I've seen the index that shows this particular bounty land offer, but it's after the soldier died and the widow has obtained it. Is there anything else connected to that, or was that all lost as well?
Well, for the bounty land, once you have that, you can actually get the application with the number of the land and all that from the National Archives. For those who got pensions as of the Act of 1871 and then 1878, originally the 71 Act basically said you had to have a minimum of 60 days service, which doesn't seem like very much. But so few had very great service other than, marching on the alarm that the British might invade. So the 1878 Act made it down to length of service only had to be 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
So 2 weeks, right, and then you could get a pension for the rest of your life, which is amazing when you figure the 1870s, the brutality and the losses of the Civil War, how many pensions the Union Army had obtained, and they were handing out hand over fist for a pension. So there was money that was already being dished out for the Civil War, and here they're paying for a war 50 years earlier, 60 years earlier.
You're right. And it leads to one question, because I remember looking for some people who should have been in the War of 1812. They were male, and it was the right age for them to have been in it, but I don't find any record of them fighting. Were not all able-bodied young men required to fight in this?
Absolutely not. No, you didn't have to. There was no draft for it, so you don't find an overall everybody of that age group having to go in. In fact, even for using New England as an example, the length of service of many of them, unless they went into the U.S. regular military or U.S. Army or Navy, most of them are marching for months, if not weeks. And there are obviously the exceptions to the rule that go in it for a year or two and become seasoned veterans of the war. But for the most part, it's really short service.
And why was that?
Because of the threat. I mean, they looked at it as a state-related troops that were marching off to war. Massachusetts is going off to the Harbor Islands and going down Cape Cod. Maine troops, which were part of Massachusetts then, were marching to the coastal towns to defend and watch, forts to make sure the British weren't going to invade and burn the cities up there. And that's the same thing true right down the Atlantic seaboard, right into where you get into Baltimore, and of course, the Star-Spangled Banner, and you get the invasion right into Washington, D.C. I mean, we were ill-prepared for this war.
Yes.
And maybe there needed to be a draft. But, I mean, the idea that American sailors were being plucked off of vessels and they were being pulled into the British Navy with the idea that these are British sailors and they need them for the Napoleonic Wars. The Brits were more interested in fighting the Napoleonic War, except for this little trouble over here.
Yes.
The other reason the war, I believe, is that the British were arming Native Americans, halting American expansion west. The Brits also felt that we were going to invade into Canada, which I think
we were.
Full intention. Gosh, for New Englanders, we've been trying to push into Canada since the 17th century. Invading Nova Scotia, invading into Quebec, and this really never did change much. I think the only thing that kind of stopped that was the 20th century. We became allies.
Well, we even tried to get baseball into Canada, and only one of the two teams have actually stayed,
I know. It's
sad.
It's kind of sad. Everything kind of turns around to baseball after a while with us, doesn't it?
It really does. David Allen Lambert from the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Thanks so much. Great records available. Where would people find most of these records, would you say, as a source?
Ancestry.com is a good place to search for some of the indexes, but the compiled military service records and the majority of the pension records are on a great trip right down to the nation's capital at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., where you can still see the originals when you put in a request.
Ooh, love that. Thanks so much, David.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on again.
And coming up next, we'll be talking turkey about the first Thanksgiving in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes Family History Radio, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install, and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages, like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps, like Microsoft Office, and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
Got a brick wall in your family tree? Don't know how to break through it? Get professional help from Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services. Speak directly with an experienced genealogical researcher, not a salesperson, by calling toll-free 1-877-537-2000. When you call, ask how you could win a free 1-hour consultation with an expert genealogist. Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services, with over 35 years of research experience. Visit heritageconsulting.com. Did you know your family's memories are being destroyed a little at a time every day? It's true. Old home movies, slides, photos, and audio recordings fade over time. The longer you delay the digitizing of these priceless artifacts, the more likely it is they'll be gone one day. That's why you need to call the Multimedia Center.
I brought in VHS videotape and had them transferred to DVD.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
Welcome back. It's Extreme Genes, America's family history show. I am Fisher, and you know the old saying, you can't pick your relatives. Well, the same thing goes for your ancestors. So we all have to be careful to remember that we can't get too prideful or too ashamed about those individuals we find to populate our family tree. Well, a few years ago, after 30 years of searching, I finally caught a break on a pair of third great-grandparents. The husband's obituary was finally digitized, and I was able to tie him into his parents. Both he and his wife brought 2 Revolutionary soldiers into the history. And then the lines just kept going and going until I wound up with 4 direct ancestors who came over on the Mayflower. Well, to get an unbiased review of my research, I applied to the Society of Mayflower Descendants because they're tough. And if something was incorrect, I wanted to know about it. But the application went through on the first try without any problems, validating the lines. So the last few Thanksgivings have been a little different, knowing that I had people at the very first Thanksgiving. Well, what was that like? Since millions of Americans are Mayflower descendants, I thought we'd talk to Andrea Cranny of the Society of Mayflower Descendants about that first Thanksgiving. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you back. And, you know, we're kind of excited because the holiday is coming right up this week. And the Mayflower Society is actually getting ready in your area to have an authentic Mayflower feast. Now, what did that entail? Let's go back. It was 1621.
Yes.
This was a 3-day gathering. There was no grocery store nearby. What did they eat?
They would have loved a grocery store. Well, at the feast, they were probably duck and goose and a lot of shellfish. I know they recorded a lot of eels. The Indians had showed them how to get eels and leeks and watercress and dried berries. And then, of course, they washed it down with wine. But it was more like just an outdoor barbecue for everyone. It was just 3 days of gorging themselves on all of this food.
Wow. And no family reunions. There wasn't the crazy old aunt and uncle.
No, it was just a wonderful gathering.
It was. And no football. No frisbees or anything. Wow.
You know, they did have their own games and contests going on. Maybe it was their version of a football game, but...
What did they play?
Well, they had contests of skill, like running and jumping and wrestling. The Indians performed some of their dances and singing. And then Miles Standish, he put his little army of 14 men through a little military review for them, so, you know, of marksmanship and things like that. So it was a great gathering.
So let me ask you this, Andrea. Do you think the whole thing with Miles Standish was more to show the Indians what they were capable of doing?
No, I really do feel like it was, because like the Indians also performed with their bows and arrows. At this point, I really think they had established a sweet relationship with these Indians. I mean, a great warm feeling between these Indians and the Pilgrims.
Talk about who some of these Indians were. Why were the Indians there with them, and how did that all work out? Because I think we see these pictures out there, and it shows everybody kind of hanging out together, singing Kumbaya. It was a tough first year.
Oh, clearly. And the Pilgrims realized that they really probably wouldn't have survived without the help of those Indians. Well, even the fact that the land that they finally settled on, it had been left by deserted by an Indian tribe. And so it was vacant of inhabitants, but it was left with fields cleared and ready to plant. So I think that in itself was a miracle. And then, of course, Somerset walking in that first spring and introducing himself, that to me was a miracle. And then introduced them to Squanto, who was such a great translator for them and was able to nurture that relationship then with the other Indians. And then eventually they got to meet Massasoit, and he was there, you know, at that first banquet, too,
right.
With his brave.
You know, I think back on it, I mean, probably the place was deserted because of the diseases that had been brought into the area and decimated a lot of the natives at that time. But, you know, you look back on this and you think about how remarkable it is Europeans got a foothold in North America at that time, because as I look at my own street, I live in a little cul-de-sac, and there were only, 51 survivors the first year? And that's how many people live on my cul-de-sac. And I think, you've got to be kidding me. All this started from there, and I think there's an estimate now of, 10 million Mayflower descendants. Is that about what you've heard?
Actually, I was thinking it was more like 30 million that could claim an ancestral lineage.
The question, I guess, is always whether or not you can find it and whether you can prove it, because, you know, it's a long ways back. But still,
absolutely.
But millions of Americans have descent from these 51 people, and I guess you could narrow it even further, because there were some that never had children, right?
Well, that's true. Yes, there were like 20. I think they figure 23 heads of families that have descendants.
Right. And then you have those like my guy, who was John Howland, who married Elizabeth Tilley, and she had her parents. So her parents died, as well as an aunt and an uncle in that first time. So I descend from 4, but you usually just look at the Howland line to see all 4 of them.
Yeah, since they did intermarry, that sometimes when you trace back to one, it does branch off into others as well. I can go back to 3, actually.
So let's talk about your banquet that you've got coming up, and I know you've invited a lot of people to take part in this thing. What is it that you're going to be serving this time around that was actually there at Plymouth in 1621?
Well, I know that they serve us just a regular dinner, but then they have a tasting table that is for the very adventurous people. So I think that's when we get to taste our eel, and actually to me it's only the eel that sounds really adventurous. Roast duck, turkey, clams, other shellfish. It'll be the unusual things at the tasting table.
I keep thinking that maybe, they're going to be eating twigs or, something. I mean, it had to be so difficult that first year. And what a change from what the Pilgrims had experienced, those who were from England and those who had come over from Holland.
Yes. I mean, even the corn, they'd never seen corn before. So when they found those baskets, it was such a blessing that helped them survive that year. But it took them a couple of years to even figure out how to plant that and get it to grow into a healthy harvest. The Thanksgiving feast wasn't really the end of their troubles. In fact, actually after the feast, after they had eaten for 3 days, I think after it was all over, they kind of worried that maybe they'd overdone it a little bit and were worried for their food for now the next coming year. And they still really didn't have it down as to how to plant in this new land and how to get the crops to grow. So it was a couple of years that they were still really just trying to survive.
Being a native New Englander, the ground is rocky. There's not a lot of great soil. It's not like the West and the Midwest. And I can only imagine it had to be quite an experiment for them. And the natives were obviously very helpful in getting them through that. The natives, of course, needed the Pilgrims to support them because there were some rivalries going on among the tribes there. So the politics seemed to work out for them at that time, although all that came to a horrible crash in 1675 with the King Philip's War. Right,
yeah, but really 50 some odd years, they really did live in peace and harmony with each other. And it was a mutual they did need each other. That was the beautiful part of that. They realized that they needed each other.
It is absolutely true. And in the end, I think they figured that out because the cost of not needing each other was devastating to both sides.
Absolutely.
And I understand that when we got through the King Philip's War, they figured out that the effect on the economy in North America at that time was such that it took 100 years for it to recover, which was just in time for the Revolution.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my heavens.
It was a long, long time before the United States then could get on its feet after all that. But the first Thanksgiving sounded like quite the party and certainly set in motion a great tradition that so many of us enjoy today. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and have a great event with the Society.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my favorite day of the year. I'm sure it'll be wonderful.
And have an extra helping of eel for me, Andrea.
I will. I'll think of you as I taste it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up next, I'm not really sure how to explain this, as Tom Perry, our preservation authority, is going to get into digital preservation through, well, I'll let him explain it. That's next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Genies, not long ago, something happened with one particular online research service that changed everything. It happened with a service that already has 75 million members worldwide, and it's not who you think it is. Hi, it's Fisher, and you know I'm always looking for new and better ways for you to discover your ancestors, not just the data, but the stories. The online service I'm talking about takes your family tree and then uses its powerful automated technology to match the people in your tree to over 5 billion records from around the world. Censuses, newspaper stories, vital records with 97% accuracy. This means no more wading through thousands of useless so-called hints. This also means the site itself is constantly looking for matches for you, even while you're sleeping. What site does all this? It's myheritage.com. You can try myheritage.com for free. Here's a special gift from me. Use discount code EXTREMEGENES after signing up and get an exclusive 20% discount at myheritage.com. StoryWorth.com.
You know, when it comes to family history, there's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt and the excitement generated by every new discovery. Who were your immigrant ancestors? What ship did they come over on? Why did they come when they did? Did they participate in any military campaigns that took place in their day? What personal challenges did your forefathers and mothers endure? Heritage Consulting, Genealogy Research Services can get you the answers to many of these questions and more. They've been providing professional research and consultation services since 1978. Call toll-free 1-877-537-2000 to speak directly to a professional family history researcher. Heritage Consulting can research, collect, analyze, and interpret the countless documents your ancestors generated throughout their lives and present the findings to you in an attractive book or in an electronic format. The cost? Far less than you'd expect for far more than you can imagine. 877-537-2000 or go to heritageconsulting.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to StoryWorth.com to start your family story today. Each week, StoryWorth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at StoryWorth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
Hey, back at you. It's Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, America's Family History Show. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com. He is our preservation authority. He knows everything about how to preserve what you've got. You know, that's so important because even if you aren't into researching yet, you aren't into collecting, old photographs, you might already have an awful lot of things from your parents and grandparents, and you want to make sure that they stay preserved for future generations. Good to have you along, Tom.
It's good to be here.
And you've been talking to me off air here about quantum physics and how's this work in family history?
There's different options you have to keep your data safe, and it's really important to do that. For instance, when you run a credit card online, people think, well, how is that safe? Can't somebody just grab this packet? They have my number, they have my name, they have my zip code, they have all this kind of stuff. Actually comes right back to math. In fact, almost everything that affects our life today is based on math. It's all mathematical formulas.
Well, and math has really kind of been the thing that dictates everything from the beginning of time, really, when you get down to it.
Math totally dictates what we do. It dictates how fast our computers can be, how much data we can put on a CD or DVD. Math is everything.
In the modern setting especially. Yep.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go clear back to the old times, they had an abacus. As everybody knows that's listened to our show before, a CD or a DVD are made up of binary codes. There's zeros and ones, meaning off or on, and that's what tells the computer what to do. And some of this stuff gets really weird. So when you run a credit card, what it does, it goes into prime numbers, and everybody knows what prime numbers are. Prime numbers can only be divided by themselves or by 1. So if you take a string of prime numbers and multiply them against each other, you will never be able to, by hand or even with super fast computers, ever figure out what that first number was.
Right,
because prime numbers, they just go forever. So you have the fastest commercially purchased computers today. It would take forever to figure out what your credit card numbers are by trying to crunch these prime numbers to figure out what they are, all these zeros and ones. So that's the good news. Now, the bad news, when you get into quantum physics and mechanics, this basically changes everything. They are developing some prototype computers right now that still use binary code, but they use it in almost, I guess, what you'd call a third or fourth dimension, and it almost sounds like sci-fi, but it's totally legit. These prototype computers, they are huge, like those big IBMs that first came out.
Right, where everybody's wearing a white suit.
Exactly, and they're huge rooms.
Yes.
They're not wearing white suits anymore, but these rooms are incredible. The chips that they use are these little teeny things, about 1/8 of the size of a standard postage stamp. But the heat that these things generate on the quantum level is so enormous. The cooling unit for these little chips are as big as something that you would see at a nuclear reactor. They are just absolutely incredible to keep this chip cool because it's doing stuff so fast. And the neat thing about this is, as I mentioned, it thinks in second and third dimensions. So you can be at more than one place at the same time.
Oh, boy. Now you're getting weird.
It's getting really, really weird. So there could be 4 of you all existing at the same place in different areas. And so after the break, we'll go in and explain how this works.
We should have been doing this for Halloween because you're getting a little freaky on me here, I'm thinking, Tom. All right, we will return with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com with more on this strangeness in minutes on Extreme Genes Family History Radio, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages, like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps, like Microsoft Office, and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by zapthegrandmagap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
Welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here. That's Tom Perry from tmcplace.com and our preservation authority, of course. We're talking, I think, in things that are way too deep for me about how quantum physics fits into preserving our family history. But you've figured something out on this, Tom. So pick it up. We were talking about what?
We're talking about being in two places at the same time.
And how do we do that? Just as a quick review.
It's really almost like sci-fi, this new technology of quantum physics and quantum mechanics. This is real. They are doing it with computers where they can have the exact same thing in two different spots, which means when they're protecting your data, there's more option to protect your data from people that are trying to hack into your data that they're going to be confused. Just like with the prime numbers, they're not going to be able to do the math backwards to find out what your credit card numbers are. So when you're protecting your data online,
yes,
you want to make sure you're using somebody that's reliable and that really knows what they're doing. You know, ask some questions. Ask what kind of data protection are you using? Are you using the prime number type system? Are you using quantum physics, et cetera? And if they go, huh? Go to somebody else. When you have things at two different locations, another thing that gives you a headache is, as we mentioned earlier, all binary numbers are either a 0 or a 1, or some people refer to them as on and off, mountains, valleys, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, with these new quantum computers, a 0 can be a 1 and a 1 can be a 0 at the same time.
Oh, boy.
So as crazy as that sounds, what this technology gives us the ability to do is, say we're individuals, and say we are sending something to our brother. Now, we put this packet together that's made up of, say, molecules. And when we send it to them, only I and he know what the codes are. So when he receives it, he can interpret it. He can figure out what it was. But the neat thing about these so-called molecules, when they're sent, if somebody peeks at it and still maybe is not able to figure out what it is, but just peeks at it, it actually changes the structure. And so then we are both immediately notified that somebody peeked.
Okay.
Even though they didn't get any information possibly out of it, we know that somebody peeked. Whether it's a phone call we're sending, whether it's a photo we're transmitting, whether it's videotapes, anything that we're doing, we'll be able to know that somebody peeked at our packet. And then we can take precautions to stop that so they can't peek at it and then maybe down the road figure it out. So this technology just gives us incredible options to really, really protect our information.
And this is in effect now. Or somebody
absolutely.
doing that? What companies are doing this?
Well, I don't know of any specific companies. Most of this is still in the research series at major universities, but you can go to Nova and you can Google the word Rise of the Hackers, and they have some different things on that. And as technically minded as I am, some of this stuff is still so far above my head. It's neat to see that it's actually not just experimental, that they're actually doing things with it. And as things go faster and faster and faster, like they say, things double every so many years. We mentioned back in 2013, we had to update our photo and slide scanners 3 times because the new technology was going so fast. And so same kind of thing. Things are happening so fast. But I would go to Nova and Google hackers, and you'll be able to find some more articles on this and see the university studies they're doing, some interviews of people. It's just absolutely amazing technology. By having these zeros and ones, being blind to these normal hackers, it takes things at such a high level that it's going to be almost impossible for people to hack into credit cards, family data that you're trying to keep, Facebook. A lot of people that use Facebook, they never check their settings. You really need to go into your privacy settings and check every single thing. If you have the thing that says allow it to be shared with other internet providers, you could have everything that you put on Facebook available to anybody that Googles your name.
You are getting far deeper than I even thought you were capable of, Tom. Hey, thanks to my friends David Allen Lambert of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and Andrea Cranny of the Society of Mayflower Descendants for joining us on the show. If you missed any part, catch the podcast at extremegenes.com, iHeartRadio's Talk Channel, or iTunes. Have a great Thanksgiving. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.